So these notes are going to cover 4.2, the second half of this unit. So the first half, we did society and the changes between the social structure in the world during industrialization. And today we're going to focus on economics. So I'm recording this one because this is actually a very complicated topic. We're going to go over the three economic systems that really emerged during the Industrial Revolution. But we're also going to talk about capitalism and socialism, which are going to pretty much create most of the conflicts all the way through 1991. So all the way to the end of the year, we're going to be talking about capitalism and socialism. If you do not understand these, please come talk to me because they're going to come up over and over and over and over again. So first off, our objectives are 1, understand free enterprise, aka known as capitalism, and B, understand socialism and communism. Again, if you do not understand these, please come talk to me. So vocab that you have to understand first is the free market. This is going to relate to capitalism a lot. The free market is just the natural laws of supply and demand. If there is a good that people want, somebody will supply that good. It is unregulated in the free market. You are the one that decides how much you want to charge. You are the one that decides where your business is going to be, and you are going to be the one that decides what your business will sell. Utilitarianism we'll go over, but this is kind of in between socialism and capitalism. This is the idea that the government should kind of regulate the economy to try and make everything good for the greatest number of people. Socialism is on the other end of capitalism or the free market. This is an idea where the people, so the people in a nation, they are the ones that own property and operate businesses instead of individuals like it is in capitalism. If that's confusing now, don't worry. They each have their own individual slide. You have to understand the means of production because this is going to come up. So the means of production are the things that make the things we need to survive. So they're the factories that make shoes and coats and steel. They are the farms that grow our food. They are the railways that transport stuff. So it's those really big industries that kind of keep the country together. Communism, we'll go over a little more. This is the far extreme radical end of socialism. And then the proletariat is the working class. I'm not going to have you work toward or look at social democracy. I'm not as worried about that one. We're mostly going to focus on just the big ideas of capitalism, or aka the free market, and socialism. So beginning in the middle 1800s, the changes of the Industrial Revolution had grown so extreme that people began to question the government's role in all of it. There were so many people moving, there were so many new industries, and people began to ask, what was the cause of the Industrial Revolution and who owns all the resources? Because before this time, if I happened to be sitting on top of an oil deposit, it was mine. I had everything. I could charge as much as I want for that oil. I could decide to burn it if I want. But oil was so important that people began to say, well, it should be given to the country or it should be forced to sell it. And these three different systems we're going to learn about, they're going to examine that idea of who owns the resources in a country and who gets to decide how much of those resources you and I get and how much we charge for them. So the first one that we're going to go over is capitalism. You can see it right over here. I'll star it. Or the free market. I will accept both as an answer. So the central idea of capitalism is laissez-faire. The government, it means hands-off in French. The government has no regulation on the economy. You decide what you're going to put in your product. You decide where you're going to sell it. You decide where you're going to make it. You decide who's going to get it. The government does not care about your business that much. We call that the unregulated exchange of goods and services. You just open a business, you see if you can make money. The main idea behind capitalism is that the entrepreneurs who create these businesses will invest their money into other businesses, growing the economy as a whole. So if I open up a shoe store, I am going to need shoes. So I'm going to buy them from a company that is going to have to hire workers and pay those workers who are going to go out and buy other products, and the economy grows because of kind of this chain reaction of money moving throughout it. Another key part of the free market is competition. When companies get in competition with each other, it causes prices to generally fall. So imagine that there are two companies, and both of them are offering carpentry services to build homes. If one company charges $20,000 for a home and the other charges $25,000, more people are going to start gravitating towards that $20,000 home. But competition is going to make people say, well, my home is better. Maybe the $25,000 home is better. It offers more of a value. So that company that is only doing it for $20,000 has a choice. Do they drop their price even farther to $15,000 so they can compete? Or do they try and make their home better and bring it up to that $25,000 level? What competition usually results in are cheaper prices for all of us, because companies are kind of in a race to the bottom to sell their products as cheap as they can so they can get your business. Capitalism is going to be supported mostly by that middle class that is growing during the Industrial Revolution, because they are the ones that are selling things. They're the ones opening the businesses. They're the ones running the stores. They want as much business as they can get. The whole idea is that the solution to the working class's problem. So we're going to see the focus of a lot of this stuff is on the working class, those people who are toiling in the factories and living in the tenements. The capitalists will say that the free market, not the government, the free market, allowing people to open up businesses and make their own economic decisions, that will solve the working class's problems. They would say, let the working class open up a business and they will work themselves out of the tenements and they could become middle class themselves. Thomas Malthus was a very important supporter of the free market. He had this idea that one of the reasons that the working class had so many issues was that they were having too many children, that the population would always outpace the food supply. It was kind of like a cyclical system, and that's called the iron law of wages, where when people have high wages, they have a lot of children. More children eventually grow up to be more workers. And then if you have too many workers, it lowers the wages, because if you have so many workers that a company knows they can just fire their worker and they have another person waiting to come into that job, they don't have to offer as high wages. So his solution is encourage people to have a lot less children. That way wages stay high and the working class can actually afford a decent standard of living. Now, he's a very controversial figure because there is a famine going on in Ireland, and he tells the British government, don't send food. We have to let the population kind of stabilize so that the suffering will end in Ireland. The next system we're going to talk about is utilitarianism. The central idea of utilitarianism is that the government should have some say in the economy. It's a very limited say, though. They still generally want people to do what they want with their companies, buy what they want, sell what they want, charge what they want. But the government can make laws regulating the economy, but the whole goal of it is so that everybody's basic needs are met. The utilitarians would say that everybody needs food, water, shelter, and that should not be something that nobody can afford. So they want the government to help improve the lives of the working class by providing homeless shelters, by providing free soup kitchens, by providing job training, and mostly the utilitarians are really big on free schooling so that working class children can learn a skill and they can get out of the working class. Our last system we're going to go over is socialism. Socialism and capitalism do not get along. They will quite literally fight each other to the death. So the central idea of the socialists is the government heavily regulates the economy. The government is making lots of laws about the economy to make it fair. You should definitely note and make your own note that the goal of socialism is making everything fair. So the socialists believe that the workers are being exploited by the owners of the factories. They're being exploited by the capitalists. They're not paying them fair wages. They're not letting them even, have enough to survive. So the government's job is to protect the workers. At the more extreme ends of socialism, they say that the government should own the means of production. So instead of a private individual owning a steel mill, the government will own it. And you'll hear them say a lot that the people should own it. When they say people, they mean government, because we elect the government. The idea is by electing the government, we will then own that industry. So resources like oil, coal, steel, they're owned by everybody. And that way the government can fairly distribute those resources around the country. The socialists are very like goal driven. They want a more fair society with human progress and everybody to kind of live a good life with the government regulating it all. The last group we're going to talk about is the communists. And you have to make note that all communists are socialists, but not all socialists are communists. Communists are the far end of socialism. They are the extremist. So these two guys down here, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, developed communism in the 1840s. Their whole goal is a classless society. They don't believe there should be any social classes. So there shouldn't be a working class, a middle class, and upper class. Everybody should just be a citizen of the country. And they think that history has been a struggle between two classes, the people who have wealth and the people who don't have wealth. And they are very revolutionary because the utilitarians, the socialists, and the capitalists, they accept that class structure, that pyramid that we went over, where there is, the working class on the bottom, then the middle class, and then the upper class. The communists want to kind of blow that whole thing up and make a new society. And the way they think this is going to happen is the two classes are essentially going to go to war against each other. So if you look at the ad down here, the guy with the top hat, this is the bourgeoisie. So this is the rich guy. And the communists believe that the bourgeoisie, they control all the money. They own the means of production. They're the ones that have access to the coal mines. They're the ones that own the factories. And they have been keeping this guy on the ground kind of beat down. He is the proletariat. He's the working class. And they keep them kind of under their thumb so they can make money off them. What Karl Marx and Engels believe is that someday the proletariat will rise up, kill the bourgeoisie, and they will create this classless society where everybody is the same, and the government controls the means of production. So there will be no social classes, and the government will kind of dish out all the resources and money to people based on their need. So you should be able now to explain the difference between a capitalist and a socialist, okay? And the main difference, if you look at the political cartoon over here, is the role of the government. In capitalism, the government really doesn't have that much of a say in business. In socialism, the government is kind of regulating business and is in between people conducting business. If you have any questions, please let me know. And again, we'll go over this a little bit when I return to class.